Story disclaimer. This story is a work of fiction and is intended for entertainment purposes only. The content includes dark themes, horror elements, and fictional depictions of rituals and sacrifices that are purely imaginative and not reflective of any real-life practices or beliefs. Viewer discretion is advised. This video is not suitable for younger audiences, and parental guidance is recommended. The story does not endorse or promote any harmful behavior, violence, or dangerous activities. Please note that all characters, events, and settings are entirely fictional and created for the purpose of storytelling. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events, is purely coincidental. In the vibrant city of Zandi, Malik, a once promising artist, finds himself lost in despair as his dreams fade away. Struggling to make ends meet and desperate for inspiration, he stumbles upon a mysterious bookstore where a shadowy figure named Seron awaits. With glinting eyes and a mesmerizing smile, Seron offers Malik a life-changing opportunity, the chance to reclaim his artistic glory in exchange for painting a haunting portrait that will reveal his darkest fears and hidden desires. As Malik dives into this pact, he quickly realizes that the price of his newfound fame may be higher than he ever imagined. With each brush stroke, he becomes entangled in a web of dark magic and unsettling revelations, confronting the very shadows he tried to escape. As his art gains notoriety, Malik must decide how far he is willing to go to achieve his dreams and what he is willing to sacrifice in the process. Join Malik on a thrilling journey filled with suspense, dark twists, and the haunting power of art. Will he be able to embrace his true self, or will the darkness consume him? Like it, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications so you are notified when he uploads a new episode. In the bustling African city of Zandi, a young man named Malik was down on his luck. Once a promising artist, he now found himself struggling, barely making ends meet. His paintings were no longer selling, and his inspiration had vanished. One evening, while wandering through the narrow alleys of Zandi, Malik came across an old, dusty bookstore. A strange, shadowy figure stood in front of the shop's window. The figure's eyes glinted as he smiled at Malik. "Come inside," he whispered, "I've been waiting for you." Intrigued, Malik stepped in. The store was filled with ancient books, scrolls, and mysterious artifacts. The figure introduced himself as Seron, a man with the ability to offer the desperate their wildest dreams. Seron made Malik an offer: he would bring life back into Malik's art, make him the most famous artist in the world. But in return, Malik had to agree to paint a very special portrait, one that would bear the weight of his deepest fears and hidden desires. Without thinking twice, Malik agreed. Malik was immediately filled with excitement. His hands itched to paint again. Seron handed him a blank canvas, but it felt heavy in Malik's hands. "Paint your soul," Seron instructed. Malik didn't quite understand what that meant, but as he began painting, he felt an odd energy flow through him. With every stroke of the brush, the portrait on the canvas began to take shape. It was a dark, haunting version of himself, eyes filled with despair, but also power. He shivered at the sight. Seron grinned. "Now, your life will change. You'll be more successful than you ever dreamed, but remember, the portrait will hold everything you fear and despise. Keep it hidden, and never look at it again." Malik felt a chill, but he was too thrilled by the promise of success to care. His life was about to take a dramatic turn. True to Seron's words, Malik's career took off like wildfire. His new paintings, filled with dark, surreal images, captivated everyone. Art collectors, critics, and the public were amazed at the depth and emotion in his work. Soon, Malik was the talk of the town, his paintings selling for unimaginable sums. He moved into a luxurious penthouse overlooking the city of Zandi. He attended glamorous parties and rubbed shoulders with the wealthy elite. But with every passing day, Malik felt something gnawing at him. He couldn't shake the feeling that his portrait, the one hidden in a locked room of his home, was somehow watching him. Malik's fame brought him everything he had ever wanted: money, status, admiration. Yet, deep down, something didn't feel right. He began to have nightmares of the portrait, its eyes glaring at him, accusing him. Each time he woke up in a cold sweat. He wanted to forget about the painting, but it haunted his dreams. Worse, Malik began to notice subtle changes in himself. His temper grew shorter, his actions more reckless. He pushed people away, including his closest friends. One night, after a particularly wild party, Malik stumbled into the room where he had hidden the portrait. His hand hovered over the cloth that covered it. A voice in his mind told him to walk away, but the pull was too strong. He yanked the cloth away, revealing the portrait again. To his horror, the figure in the painting had changed. It looked more distorted, cruel, and its eyes burned with an evil intensity. The next morning, Malik received an unexpected visit from Seron. The mysterious man appeared calm, but his eyes betrayed a hint of warning. "I told you never to look at it," Seron said softly. "The more you look, the more power it gains over you." Malik was furious. "What is this portrait doing to me?" he demanded. Seron smiled, but it wasn't a comforting smile. "You made a pact, Malik. The painting bears the weight of your soul. As long as you leave it alone, you'll be fine. But every glance brings the darkness within you to the surface. If you're not careful, you may lose control of it." Malik felt trapped. He wanted to destroy the painting, but Seron's warning echoed in his mind. "What happens if I destroy it?" Malik asked, his voice shaking. Seron didn't answer directly. "Some things are better left alone," he said before disappearing into the shadows. As time passed, Malik's life became more chaotic. Despite his immense success, he felt empty inside. He began to withdraw from his art and indulged in reckless behavior. His friendships crumbled, and rumors of his bizarre behavior spread throughout Zandi. The portrait loomed large in his mind, an ever-present reminder of his pact with Seron. One night, Malik couldn't take it any longer. He returned to the room where the portrait was hidden. The painting had grown even darker. The figure's face now bore a twisted grin, and its hands seemed to reach out, almost as if trying to pull Malik into its world. In a moment of panic, Malik covered the painting again. He knew he had to do something, anything, to break free from the curse. Malik decided to seek help. He consulted with wise elders, spiritual healers, and anyone who might know how to break the curse. But each time, he was met with the same answer: a pact with the shadows cannot be undone easily. Some advised him to leave the city, others told him to accept his fate. But Malik refused to give up. One healer, an old woman named Nana, gave him a glimmer of hope. "There's a way," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it comes with a price. You must face the darkness inside you. Only then can you be free." With renewed determination, Malik knew he had to confront the very thing he feared the most, the portrait. Malik returned home, his heart racing. He stood before the portrait, the weight of Nana's words heavy on his shoulders. The air around the painting seemed to pulse with energy, a darkness that had become a living, breathing entity. Malik took a deep breath and tore the cloth away one last time. He was shocked by what he saw. His whole body started to sweat, a cold sweat that made Malik want to throw up. Malik stood frozen in front of the portrait, unable to move as the twisted version of himself in the painting seemed to glare at him with malice. The figure in the painting was no longer just a distorted image, it had become something more sinister, something alive. The face sneered at Malik as if mocking his weakness. Its eyes burned with an evil that Malik could feel deep inside his bones. His heart pounded as he reached out to touch the painting, but a sudden coldness stopped him. The air around the portrait was thick with darkness, and Malik felt as though he was standing at the edge of a precipice, ready to fall into an abyss. He took a deep breath, remembering Nana's words, "You must face the darkness inside you." "What are you?" Malik whispered, his voice trembling. The room seemed to hum with energy, and for a brief moment Malik thought he saw the figure in the painting move. The sneer on its face grew wider, and Malik stumbled back, terrified. But he couldn't leave. He had to confront it. He had to break free from this curse. He closed his eyes and forced himself to stay calm. "I'm not afraid of you," Malik muttered, but even he could hear the fear in his voice. Suddenly, the room grew darker, and Malik felt a cold hand grip his heart. The portrait was more than just a reflection of his soul, it was a gateway to something far more dangerous. Malik realized that this was no ordinary curse, it was a trap set by Seron, designed to consume him completely. Malik's mind raced as the darkness in the room intensified. He tried to look away from the portrait, but his gaze was locked on it. The twisted figure inside seemed to shift and writhe as if it were breaking free from the confines of the canvas. Malik's breath quickened as the temperature in the room plummeted, and a deep, guttural sound echoed around him, like the growl of some unseen creature. In his panic, Malik stumbled back against the wall. His thoughts scrambled, and he remembered Nana's warning. "Face the darkness inside you," she had said, but how? How could he face something that felt like it was pulling him into a void? Suddenly, he heard a voice, low, cold, and familiar. "You can't escape this, Malik," it said. It was Seron. Malik spun around, but Seron was nowhere to be seen. Still, his voice echoed through the room. "This is what you wanted, isn't it?" Seron's voice continued. "You wanted fame, fortune, success. But you forgot that everything comes with a price." Malik's heart pounded as the words sank in. "I didn't know it would be like this," he shouted, his voice shaking. The room seemed to close in on him, and the portrait's twisted figure leered at him, its eyes glowing with malice. "You didn't ask," Seron's voice whispered again. "Now, you're trapped. You gave me your soul, Malik, and there's no going back." Malik felt a surge of anger rise within him. "I won't let you control me," he spat. But even as he said it, he felt the pull of the darkness growing stronger. Malik knew he had to make a decision, he couldn't stay trapped in this limbo any longer. The portrait was not just a reflection of his darkest desires, it was a living force, a symbol of everything he had sacrificed. But Malik wasn't ready to give in just yet. He wasn't ready to let this curse consume him. Suddenly, a memory flashed in his mind, Nana's words about confronting the darkness. But how could he confront something that felt so overwhelming, so evil? Malik's eyes scanned the room, looking for a way out, but there was none. The only way forward was to face the curse head-on. Taking a deep breath, Malik stepped closer to the painting. His hands trembled as he reached out, his fingertips brushing the cold surface of the canvas. The figure in the painting seemed to move closer, its sneer growing wider. Malik could feel the darkness rising around him, but he forced himself to stay calm. "I'm not afraid of you," he whispered, though his heart pounded in his chest. The figure in the painting laughed, the cold, eerie sound that sent chills down Malik's spine. "You should be," it whispered back. Malik's body tensed, but he refused to back down. With all the strength he could muster, Malik pressed his palm against the painting. The darkness surged around him, but he held on. He had to face the monster he had created, the monster inside him. As Malik touched the painting, the room seemed to dissolve around him. The walls faded into shadows, and Malik felt himself being pulled into the abyss. It was as if the painting had swallowed him whole, dragging him into the depths of his own soul. He found himself standing in a dark, endless void. The air was thick with an oppressive energy, and Malik could feel the weight of the curse pressing down on him. The figure from the painting stood before him, no longer confined to the canvas. It was a dark, twisted version of Malik, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. "This is your world now," the figure said, its voice cold and emotionless. "You belong here, with the darkness inside you." Malik's heart raced as he faced the figure. "I don't belong here," he said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "I made a mistake, but I won't let it define me." The figure laughed, the sound that echoed through the void. "You think you can escape? You think you can just walk away from the choices you've made?" Malik stood his ground. "I may have made a mistake, but I still have a choice." The figure's eyes narrowed. "And what will you choose, Malik? Will you embrace the darkness, or will you fight it?" Malik took a deep breath. He knew the choice he had to make. "I'll fight," he said firmly. The figure sneered. "Then let the game begin." As Malik stood before the dark figure, a cold gust of wind swirled around him, carrying whispers that seemed to chant an ancient spell. The void Malik found himself in grew colder, darker, almost suffocating. But within that darkness, Malik felt something new, power. There was a strange energy running through his veins, a force that made his skin tingle and his heart race. The figure stepped closer. "This is your chance, Malik. The dark magic that runs through you now is not a curse, it's a gift." Malik's eyes widened. He had heard tales of ancient sorcery, whispers of forbidden powers that few dared to speak of. The figure raised its hand, and in its palm appeared an ancient symbol glowing faintly, as if pulled from the very shadows themselves. The air crackled with raw energy, and Malik could feel it coursing through him. "This symbol is your key," the figure said, its voice low and menacing. "With this power, you can control everything around you. All you have to do is embrace it." For a moment, Malik hesitated. The dark magic was seductive. He could feel it pulling at him, promising him untold power. But somewhere deep inside, Malik felt a gnawing fear. Was this power really his to control, or would it control him? "I can teach you," the figure continued. "I can show you how to summon the shadows, how to bend reality itself. You will never be weak again." Malik's mind swirled with thoughts. He had been trapped by his deal with Seron, but now, this magic could set him free. With it, he could rewrite his fate, break free from the portrait's curse. "I'll do it," Malik whispered, almost against his better judgment. The figure smiled, dark and twisted. "Then let us begin." The figure raised its hand higher, and the shadows around them seemed to come alive. Malik could hear a distant, eerie chant, words in a language he didn't understand, but could feel deep in his bones. The dark magic pulsed through the air, and suddenly Malik found himself surrounded by swirling shadows, forming strange, twisted shapes. His body felt lighter, as if the very fabric of the world was bending to his will. But as the magic swelled, so did the darkness inside him. Malik could feel it, like a storm brewing in his chest, pushing at the boundaries of his mind. And in that moment, he realized something terrifying: the more he used the magic, the less of himself remained. The air crackled with energy as Malik channeled the dark magic through him. His hands, now glowing with an eerie black light, moved almost instinctively, tracing symbols in the air. Each movement seemed to pull the shadows closer, making them swirl and twist into monstrous forms that surrounded him. The dark magic responded to his every thought, his every emotion, and for a moment, Malik felt invincible. But as the power surged through him, Malik felt something else, the creeping emptiness, a void opening within his soul. The more he bent the shadows to his will, the more it felt like they were bending him. He could feel the dark magic taking root inside him, growing like a twisted vine, wrapping tighter around his heart. Suddenly, the figure appeared again, looming over him with a cruel smile. "You feel it now, don't you?" it said. The power is intoxicating, but it comes with a cost. You can't use the magic without giving up a part of yourself. Malik's heart raced. The dark magic had given him strength, but at what price? He looked down at his hands, which were now trembling. They looked different. Dark veins pulsed under his skin, and his reflection in the shadows showed eyes that were not entirely his own. He could feel the magic changing him, warping him. I need to stop, Malik gasped, his voice shaking. But the figure laughed. There is no stopping, Malik, it hissed. The more you use the magic, the more it consumes you. You belong to it now. Malik stumbled back, fear gripping him. He had thought the magic would free him from the curse, but now it seemed like the magic was the curse. The shadows around him loomed closer, their twisted forms writhing in the darkness, as if hungry for his soul. As the shadows closed in, Malik's mind raced. He had to escape, but how? The dark magic had trapped him in this abyss, and now it was tearing at his soul. His heart pounded as he desperately searched for a way out. That's when he saw it, the faint glow in the distance, barely visible through the swirling darkness. The figure noticed his gaze and snarled. You think you can escape? You belong to the shadows now, Malik. There is no going back. But Malik refused to give in. The glowing light felt like his only chance, his only hope. He summoned every ounce of strength left within him and ran toward the light, his feet barely touching the ground as the shadows reached out, trying to pull him back. As he neared the light, he saw it was not just a glow, it was a portal. A swirling, pulsating tear in the fabric of reality, beckoning him to step through. Malik hesitated for a moment. He didn't know where it would take him, but anything was better than the abyss. With a final, desperate push, Malik leaped through the portal. Malik landed hard, tumbling onto cold, stone ground. The air was different here, thick, heavy, and filled with the scent of something ancient and powerful. He groaned as he stood, his body aching from the fall. The portal behind him had sealed shut, leaving him stranded in this strange, dark place. He looked around. The sky was a swirling mix of dark clouds and strange, violet light. Tall, jagged rocks jutted out from the ground like broken teeth, and in the distance, Malik could see a towering fortress made of dark stone. This must be it, Malik muttered to himself. The heart of the magic. His instincts told him to turn back, to find another way, but something pulled him forward. As he made his way toward the fortress, Malik couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The shadows around him seemed to move on their own, shifting and whispering as he passed. The dark magic was still with him, growing stronger the closer he got to the fortress. Malik could feel it pulsing inside him, urging him forward, tempting him with promises of untold power. But with every step he took, Malik knew he was walking deeper into the heart of the darkness. As Malik approached the towering fortress, its sheer size overwhelmed him. The closer he got, the more oppressive the air became. The walls of the fortress seemed to hum with a strange, otherworldly energy, and the entrance loomed before him like a gaping mouth, waiting to swallow him whole. The moment he stepped inside, the temperature plummeted. Cold tendrils of wind wrapped around him, whispering in voices too faint to understand but too eerie to ignore. The walls inside the fortress were etched with strange symbols, glowing faintly with a sickly green hue. Malik's breath caught in his throat as a chill ran down his spine. Suddenly, the door behind him slammed shut with a deafening bang. He spun around, only to see the entrance disappear into the stone, trapping him inside. Panic gripped him, but there was no time to think. The walls seemed to close in, narrowing with each second. Without warning, a loud crack echoed through the hall, followed by a deep, guttural groan. The ground beneath Malik's feet began to tremble violently. The fortress was alive, shifting, changing, and it was hungry. Dark shadows slithered from the cracks in the walls, growing, twisting into monstrous forms. Their faces were hollow, eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Malik's heart pounded as they moved toward him, silent but menacing. "Come closer," a voice whispered from the darkness. It wasn't the same voice as before. This one was colder, ancient, dripping with malice. Malik stumbled backward, his breath quickening as he realized he had nowhere to run. The shadows pressed closer, their mouths opening in silent screams, reaching out with twisted, clawed hands. Will Malik manage to escape from the shadows closing in on him? Let's find out. Join us on our next episode.